just a few minutes before the suspect is believed to have entered Ann Widdecombe's house, this was the final moments we will ever see of Anne on our screens. Watch.
It doesn't matter whether you knew or not. If you supply wrong information department, you're guilty. Well, that is a nonsense. Absolute nonsense.
It's just the thought that a few moments later, the suspect is believed to have arrived at the house. And I just keep thinking, oh, if only the interview was maybe a bit later or had gone on.
Well, this is one of the things that's haunted me. I'm going to try not to get emotional here, but it's difficult to watch her without thinking, what were her last moments like?
Ann Widdecombe's final interview has now been released. And this is truly chilling because the belief is that it took place just 20 minutes before her murder. The interview was not previously known about, but has been released by Times Radio, who posted on X, Ann Widdecombe defended Nigel Farage's financial conduct in an interview recorded only 20 minutes before police believe she was attacked. It shows her passionately held beliefs and long political experience. And they added that an excerpt of the interview is being published with the permission of Anne's family. So you'll know previously in terms of the timeline that we believed the last time that Anne actually spoke out was to Mark Dolan during the Talk TV breakfast show. She then, of course, was meant to appear on the Matt Allwright show on Channel 5, but didn't show up. This interview took place at 12:10 p.m. And the reason that I just feel so devastated about this is imagine if the interview had been taking place a few moments later when the suspect arrived at the house. You would hope that the presenter informed the police and at the very least the police could have been there sooner. Would Anne's life have been saved? You just don't know, but it's one of those cruel twists of fate. But the presenter here is a guy called James Maidment Fullard. He's a presenter on TWR, which is a Christian radio station. The interview was not broadcast live because it was meant to be aired later this week. And of course, she staunchly defended the Reform UK leader.
Several parties say Farage is trying to duck and dive around the rules. What specific rule or processes do you believe is unfair to him?
Well, I think, first of all, the very long drawn-out nature of this, which, as I say, has been constantly accompanied by press speculation. And also the fact, he was answering to the Standards Committee for one thing, and then suddenly another one came along, again applying to the time before he became an MP, indeed at a time when he wasn't even an active politician. And he probably thinks, where is this going to end? Let's bring an end to it. Let's bring this to a head. Let's put it to the people to see what they think of all of this. There has been a game now for a very long time, a game of personal destruction, not just for Nigel, for lots and lots of politicians have faced this. What Clinton once described as the politics of personal destruction. And I think that another thing is, and Nigel is going to say, well, don't always expect people just to writhe in your coils. They may actually turn on you, and I'm now setting the example of that and leading the way.
In this final interview before her death, Ann Widdecombe went on to say that the register has become a joke.
The other thing is the register has become a joke. Now, the register used to be an extremely serious instrument, which meant that you declared anything which might have any impact on the way you vote. That was the intention of the register. It was a good one. You need to know. But it then got to the point where you had to declare all your earnings, regardless of whether they influenced anything. I mean, my standard joke at the time to the then registrar, who was Elizabeth Filton, was, you're expecting me to declare the fee I received from appearing with Basil Brush. Is that because you expected it to influence my vote on punting? It just, she was so po-faced she didn't even see the joke. But it is so, it became a nonsense. And then it got to the stage when Harriet Harman was leader of the House. It reached the stage where you had to declare every bunch of flowers you had. Literally, I'm serious, and it's departed from its original purpose. It's become a game so that people try to see, what you might not have declared. You might have decided you didn't have to declare. Other people, like I did, will declare every last damn thing, even though it's complete nonsense, like the fee with Basil Brush, because just to do it. So I no longer take the register seriously in the way that I used to.
And then just a few minutes before the suspect is believed to have entered Ann Widdecombe's house, this was the final moments we will ever see of Anne on our screens. Watch. I would love you to join the Outspoken community to keep this reporting independent. Make sure you check that you are subscribed right now. It is completely free, but keeps me in business fighting the mainstream media.
And the other thing is standards and privileges. Before Tony Blair came in, it was a very, very senior committee of the House of Commons, peopled by very senior people whose careers were behind them. So they owed absolutely nothing to the whips or to anybody else, who had a really good understanding of Parliament and how it worked and how influence worked, and understood all of that because they'd been there, for a very long time. Blair changed all that. And I think, I don't have the same respect for this committee as once I had. Let me give you a very good example. When Boris was being subjected to an investigation, they simply changed the rules. Now, the rules said you mustn't knowingly mislead Parliament, which we would all say, yep, that's right. Yeah, they changed it. It doesn't matter whether you knew or not. If you supply wrong information to Parliament, you're guilty. Well, that is a nonsense. Absolute nonsense. One of many reasons why, as I say, I no longer take either the register or the committee as seriously as I certainly did when I was in Parliament.
That interview ended moments before Anne messaged Channel 5 researchers to set up her next interview at 1 p.m. with her final text sent at 12:19 p.m. So Mike Graham, it's pretty chilling watching that, isn't it? Not because actually it was a particularly interesting interview. I'd say, Anne was very much sticking to the facts there, but it's just the thought that a few moments later, the suspect is believed to have arrived at the house. And I just keep thinking, if only the interview was maybe a bit later or had gone on, or, maybe the disturbance would have been caught on camera. We just don't know.
Well, this is one of the things that's haunted me since Friday afternoon, and I don't know what I would have done. I don't know whether I could have stopped it, but I just loved Anne's contribution so much. The way that she was speaking there, it's really difficult to watch her, and I'm going to try not to get emotional here, but it's difficult to watch her without thinking, what were her last moments like? Because I don't know if the man in question was in the house while she was doing that. Could that have been the case? I mean, I don't want to be macabre about it, but she didn't deserve to die in the way that she died. And I don't even know how she died, but what we do know is that she suffered some very serious head injuries. And it sounds to me, in terms of what we know about her security, that she didn't really have any. She didn't have an electronic gate. Somebody asked if she would put one in. She decided not to do it. People, by the sounds of things, you could walk up to her door and probably open it. We've all known people who live in rural parts of the country who think that that's okay because it's safe enough to do. But yeah, you're right. It's chilling for so many reasons, because they can, again, this is why I can't believe the police have been so incompetent, because they could have absolutely determined within a period of about 45 minutes when this horrible crime was committed, and yet they still arrested the wrong guy. And you just think, how useless can you be? And you know, you and I, Dan, have been in many scrapes and personal and maybe with friends of ours, family members and all of that. But you can't, I don't think I've ever wanted time to go back more than now.
No. I know, because the thing is, Mike, Anne was such a big part of your new show.
Yeah.
And I know what this is like, because when I launched my show at GB News, Anne was one of my first big bookings. Do you know what I mean?
Of course.
I was determined to put her on the channel. We gave her this weekly slot. She is someone who gives her heart and soul to the shows that she is contributing to. And she was a weekly guest on the Mike Graham show from pretty soon after your launch. And now it's beautiful, actually. She is a regular fixture. There she is. A framed photograph on your wall. But I thought, Mike, it was such a big thing for Anne to contribute to your show in the way that she did. Because let's be honest, this is a woman who has a big mainstream media career. She was coming to the end of her career, although, you know, mentally absolutely sharp as a tack right until the end, which is, I guess, one of the big things. But, you know, it would have been very easy for her, Mike, because you know what it's like. We both know this. Some people run away when you're cancelled from the mainstream media and you launch in the independent media.
I can give you a list. I'm sure that you can also give me a list, right? Some of them are crawling back now, funnily enough.
Oh yes, that happens too.
Right? Because they see the numbers
when they realise it's a success.
Right? Yeah. Ooh, maybe we should come and join you now. And I'm happy about that. I'm not going to hold any grudges, but she was there from the beginning and she trusted me and she went with the first show, the first week that we started, she was there, you know?
Yeah, and there were some great moments. Can we just take a look at some of them, please? Because they were brilliant. But first, do you remember when energy used to feel effortless? You'd get through a workout, a long day, a bad night's sleep, and still feel sharp. But as you get older, trust me, it can start to feel like your body and brain don't have the same spark they used to. Here's the interesting part. That's not in your head. It's biology. When we're younger, our bodies naturally produce and regenerate high levels of creatine. But as we move into our 40s and beyond, that production steadily declines. And that means less readily available energy for both our muscles and our brains. That's exactly why Qualia Creatine Plus was created. Here's the key thing, though. You can't just take any old creatine and assume it's doing the job. It has to actually get into your cells and then be activated so your body can use it properly. That's why Qualia Creatine Plus is different. It combines two clinically studied forms of creatine with electrolytes, all chosen to support absorption and activation. It includes easy-to-mix micronized creatine monohydrate in a new form called OptiCreatine, plus Creatine Magna Power, along with a precise amount of sea salt to help support uptake where it matters most. What makes this stand out is that it's not just creatine, it's the delivery system your body needs to make it work for you. We're way past the dark ages of creatine being just for gym bros. Creatine is critical for energy, metabolism, cognition, and healthy aging, not just lifting like a bodybuilder. So go to qualialife.com/Dan for 50% off. And here's a bonus. Use the code Dan for an additional 15% off your order. That's QUALIA life.com/Dan and use the code Dan. And thank you so much to Qualia for sponsoring this episode. Now, back to the show.
Remember Magna Carta, remember innocent until proved guilty, and let the law take its course.
Let us say a very happy bank holiday. Oh, look at this, bank holiday Monday to Ann Widdecombe. Look at you. Morning.
Well, I was told, Mike, that you were going to be in a Hawaiian shirt. I didn't believe it. I switched on and you were. So I thought, well, I must get into the spirit of this.
I love it. I love it. Absolutely brilliant. Fantastic. Great hat, by the way, and fantastic sunglasses. But
I noticed the other day I made a journey on, it was a mixture of Great Western Railway and cross country. And everything went to time and I got all the connections. And I actually thought this was a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
instead of taking it for granted.
I know.
I was actually telling everybody, oh, it worked.
Yes.
I mean, for heaven's sake, there was a time when we would have been scandalised if it didn't work.
Exactly.
Now, it's like saying when you come back from holiday, oh, good, we haven't been burgled. It's accepting the lowest possible standard.
Yeah. What's he trying? Is he trying to make us like him? Because it's not working.
He's trying to show that he's got a sense of humour. In fact, he's got very little sense of humour. He's got some, but he's got very, very little sense of humour. My big beef with Starmer, in case anybody forgets, is that when he was the Director of Public Prosecutions, he was the one who began. I mean, Alison Saunders then took it to the ends of the earth, but he was the one who began the whole business of, if somebody says they've been assaulted, you believe them. You believe them. I think once people realise they're not just lovable tree huggers, they're actually very, very serious neo-communists, I think there'll be a completely different reaction. We have confused tolerating other people's beliefs with surrendering our own.
No.
So these sorts of interviews, and I really hope the sort of work that you're doing catches on, these sort of interviews are hugely useful.
What a sensible woman. So terribly sensible woman.
Just a beautiful tribute, Mike. You definitely brought out the best in Anne, because what I think a lot of people didn't realise is that she was wickedly funny, right? She had a good sense of humour. You could take the mickey out of Anne. She took it. She liked it. She played along. And you really went there with her.
Because that's what we do, I think, best is that, the kind of people that we know and trust and love, and there's not that many of them, and I'm not going to pretend that all of the guests that we have on our show are like that, but they sort of get it. We've built, like you've built, a community of people who support what you do. It's not about just all agreeing with each other all the time. She would occasionally disagree with some of the things that I would say, particularly when it came to things like immigration. She would have different views to me. She would have different views, and she was always very steadfast about that. And she would stand up for her own beliefs, and we could have a robust conversation, and part friends and make a joke and everything. And for me, the whole point of discourse and politics and fun and life is that we all have something to learn from somebody else all the time, every day. And she was one of the greatest orators and people and ordinary just human beings that I've known in my life. And I don't say that lightly. I'm not trying to be maudlin. I'm not trying to be in any way sorry for myself. And I'm sorry that every now and again I get a bit emotional about it, because I can't help it. Because you know what, Dan? One of the things I keep saying to my family when they say to me, "Are you okay?" I've never known anyone who was murdered.
I know. I heard you say that on your show this week, and I was like, oh my God, horrible. I know. Likewise.
It's so horrible. And I don't, part of me, and I'm, a big boy, I can look after myself, I can deal with all sorts of slings and arrows as you've had to do. And it hasn't been easy in life sometimes, but I sort of don't know what to do with it, every now and again. And I'll probably do it again after this, because it's so good to talk, and it's so great to have you as a fellow traveller. And I want to make that point. And also, you and I are going to be kicking the arse out of CPAC this week as well.
Yes, we are. We are on stage at CPAC TV, and we will pay tribute to Ann Widdecombe
really
on stage.
But there are things that are sometimes a bit more important than our own lives. And Ann Widdecombe was one of the greatest women I've ever known in my life. And I wouldn't pretend to know her that well. She was a friend, she was a colleague, she was a great supporter of mine. But there's no point in me pretending we were great friends, because, I didn't have lunch with her every day, or I didn't go to her house every minute, 5 minutes, But she was literally one of a kind. And the world is a much less interesting place without her. And I will never forget what she did for me, and what she's done and said for so many other people. And so many people have paid tribute to her, and how great she was, and how good she was at supporting people who needed it. And it's important. I think it's really important that we recognise that, and it's really important that because people need hope. People say to me all the time, what can we give us some hope, Mike? Because everything seems to be so awful, and it is awful. But Ann Widdecombe and people like her give us hope. And I hope to God that they've got the guy. I said this the other night, and I'm not going to apologise for saying this. I'm sort of hoping that we would have the old-fashioned Sweeney police squad in there beating the shit out of him, because that's what he deserves.
Yeah, never apologise. Never apologise for saying that here, Mike. Dan Wotton Outspoken is your no spin, no bias, no censorship outlet for independent news. We have no big tech backing or billionaires pulling my strings, but that does mean I need your support. So please hit subscribe on YouTube, turn on the notification bell, and subscribe to Dan Wotton Outspoken on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. It's totally free, but allow